Poland shoots down Russian drones. NATO crosses a dangerous threshold. On September 10, 2025, a moment that many in Europe had long feared finally arrived. In the early morning hours, as Russia unleashed one of its largest coordinated air assaults in Ukraine, a wave of drones veered of course, or perhaps deliberately changes course, crossing into Poland's airspace. Poland's military, supported by NATO allies, responded immediately. Fighter jets scrambled, and air defense batteries went active, and several of the intruding drones were shot down in total. Polish officials reported that at least 19 drones entered its territory, and those deemed a threat were destroyed. For the first time since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, NATO has engaged Russian assets directly inside the borders of an alliance member. The implications of this event are vast. What was once a war contained within Ukraine's border has now spilled into NATO's territory in an unmistakable way. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk did not mince words. He described the intrusion as a large-scale provocation, and within hours Poland invoked Article 4 of the NATO Treaty, which calls for urgent consultations among member states when a nation feels its territorial integrity and security is under threat. This is not Article 5, the collective defense clause that considers an attack on one member an attack on all. The decision underscores how seriously Poland views the incident. Calculated provocation. Military analysts across Europe quickly framed the drone incursion as more than a navigational mistake. Russia has repeatedly tested NATO's defenses in recent years, sending aircraft closer to Baltic airspace, sailing naval vessels near Scandinavian waters, and hacking into Western infrastructure. But this event stood apart in both scale and timing. Coming amid a massive aerial campaign against Ukraine, it appeared deliberately designed to probe NATO's ability to respond under pressure. Experts at the Atlantic Council and European think that tanks argued that the incursion was a stress test of NATO readiness. By launching drones into Polish territory while simultaneously overwhelming Ukraine's defenses with missiles and drones, Russia could measure how fast NATO units coordinate and how air defense systems perform under strain and how quickly political leaders escalate their response. The scale, 19 drones at once, suggests intent rather than accident. Immediate response. Poland's response was swift and coordinated. Polish F-16s were airborne within minutes, supported by Dutch F-35s that had been deployed to Poland early in the year as part of NATO's rotational air policing missions. German Patriot missile system tracked incoming drones, and Italian AWACS surveillance aircraft relayed data across the alliance network. Together, this demonstrated exactly what NATO has been building since 2022, an integrated defense shield across Eastern Europe. Although most of the drones were destroyed within incident, one managed to crash into a residential building in Lublin voivodeship near the Ukrainian border. The strike caused damage, but fortunately no fatalities. Still, the image of Russian drones falling on Polish soil electrified the political discourse in Warsaw, Brussels, and Washington. Poland at the front line. For Poland, the incident reaffirmed its role as NATO's most exposed frontline state. Since 2022, Warsaw has been one of Kiev's station's supporters, providing weapons, training, and logistical hubs for supplies flowing from the west into Ukraine. This already have made Poland the target of Russian rhetoric, with Moscow repeatedly warning that Poland would pick consequences for its involvement. The drone incursion therefore felt less like a random accident and more like a warning shot aimed directly at Poland's central role in sustaining Ukraine's war effort. Prime Minister Tusk declared that Poland will never hesitate to defend its skies, while emphasizing that the response was not just a Polish matter but a NATO matter. The invocation of Article 4 was designed both to share the burden and to signal to Russia that any further provocation would be met with alliance-wide resolve. Within NATO, the incident immediately triggered emergency consultations. The question facing leaders was how to respond without escalating the conflict further. On the hand, failing to act decisively could embolden Russia, encouraging more incursions and raising doubts about NATO's deterrence. On the other hand, an overly aggressive response, such as retaliatory strikes against Russia-launched sites, could escalate the war into direct NATO-Russia combat, something leaders have sought to avoid since 2022. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, now in his final months of leadership, urged calm by firmness. He reminded allies that NATO's purpose is to defend its territory and that Poland's airspace is NATO airspace. Behind the scenes, discussions reportedly centered the reinforcing air defenses along the eastern frontier, increasing intelligence sharing and issuing a strong but measured warning to Moscow. The incident must be understood against the backdrop of an intensifying war in Ukraine. In recent months, Russia has ramped up drone and missile attacks seeking to overwhelm Ukraine's air defenses and exhaust Western supplies of interceptors. Ukraine, for its part, has been pressing for more advanced weapons from the West, including long-range missiles and additional air defense batteries. The September 10 drone barrage was one of the largest to date, targeting cities across Ukraine while simultaneously testing NATO's perimeter. Historically, cross-border incidents have always been the nightmare scenario for NATO planners. During the Cold War, the alliance developed integrated rules of engagement to prevent accident skirmishes with the Soviet Union from escalating into full-scale war. Since 2022, those fears have resurfaced, with NATO conducting near-daily air patrols to deter Russian violations. Until now, most incidents had been minor, planes skirting airspace boundaries or occasional stray missiles landing in rural Poland. But the September 10 incident was different, a deliberate, large-scale penetration and direct NATO response. In the short term, expect NATO to expand its air defense umbrella in Eastern Europe. This may include more Patriot and SMT batteries, additional fighter rotations, and enhanced drone detection systems. NATO's credibility rests on proving it can protect member territory.